as we celebrate Women's History Month and also International Women's Day. This year's International Women's Day theme is Give to Gain, and it emphasizes that investing in women through resources, mentorship, and opportunities leads to collective progress and stronger and innovative communities. So here we are today. I am Rashim Mogha. I lead the EVOW initiative here in the Bay Area, but in fact, it's a global initiative. And we at EVOW believe that every woman is a leader in herself. All she needs is the ability and the support to discover, visualize, and actualize her success. And caring and sharing is the theme that we move forward with. And as we talk today, we're bringing in women leaders from EVOW and the ASEI community to talk about AI, how it's transforming our lives, and what does it mean in terms of upskilling yourself in the field of AI so that we can future-proof ourselves. In the true spirit of give to gain, the idea is to exchange insights in terms of how to upskill ourselves so that we are prepared for the future. With that, I have very strong women leaders over here in the panel today, 6 of them, and they're going to share their insights. I'm going to not spend time on introducing themselves because I think it would be better if they introduce themselves. We'll start off with the first question, and then as we go through getting ideas from these women leaders, I'll ask them to introduce themselves. We have Shweta Mogha joining us. We have Swati Saxena, Vinita Z. Pinto, Jocelyn, and Kanakshila Tandon on the panel today. With that, let's get right into the meat of the conversation. Jocelyn, as I think about AI and AI skills, what do you think audience, the women leaders who are joining us today, need to upskill themselves on this year and beyond to remain competitive in their careers?
Thanks, Rashim. So, as a resilience-centered product and transformation leader, my lens comes from leading change in complex systems where financial honesty, people, process, regulation, and outcomes all matter. So the question I ask is not can AI do this, but what improves if we use it well, and what breaks if we don't redesign first. From that perspective, the AI skill that matters most to me is judgment. See, whether you use AI for prompting, prototyping, agents, or analytics, our tools and models are evolving too quickly to serve as a durable advantage. But clear judgment about what to solve, what is missing, what output to trust or challenge, that travels across every tool. And as a speed and volume game, AI increases the value of human judgment, especially when governance and decision making are yet to catch up. Now, as a woman, I've been socially coded for contextual awareness, relational intuition, practical judgment under complexity. That is a strength. So to claim this judgment space, I would say start building that judgment stack. Understand the architecture, KPIs, data hygiene, understand statistics, null hypothesis, statistical significance, upskill on your ethics. Learn how your AI outputs translate to your real world context. I think the mistake would be treating AI like magic, a shortcut to thinking, because a polished AI output can build false confidence, and that can lead to very confident and very expensive mistakes. So upskill on judgment is where I would go.
And that's such a big point, because as you look at World Economic Forum and as they think about, leaders get together in Davos every year and talk about what skills are going to be required for next 5 years. What are the skills of future? Everything that comes up has less to do with technology and more to do with power skills, judgment, resilience, delegation. All those things become so critical. All those skills become very critical. So Shweta, as a HR leader, as somebody who is a futuristic leader in terms of the skills that people need to develop, What skills right now stand out over others as you're going through, the skill set that's available out there in the market today?
I think when AI was launched, it all became about prompt engineering. How well can you prompt, and how well can you tell AI to do what you need it to do? Um, I think the world has shifted from that place now to looking at processes holistically. And I think when I look at hiring leaders, or I look at hiring people who join the organization, one thing that we definitely want to look for is their ability to understand the processes end to end, identify opportunities in terms of what can be done by AI and where is it that the human intervention is needed. So, do the leaders who we bring in have that wisdom to not just say, well, I can use ChatGPT and Gemini to rewrite the messaging or rewrite, my documents, but moving away from that to say, what and how can I look at my processes holistically, identify opportunity areas on aspects which are repetitive in nature, where I can use AI to come and enhance the productivity of my team, and where is it that I need human supervision and intervention to be able to take my processes to the next level. So, in a nutshell, I go back to what Jocelyn said: judgment and delegation, and managing a hybrid workforce, which is not just um, human workforce, but using AI as your workforce and augmenting that with your human capital becomes critical.
Yeah, so the human workforce and the digital workforce going hand in
Absolutely.
hand. Vinita, as you start thinking about this as a transformation leader, what do you think people need to start? Which skills do they need to start developing immediately?
So I think one of the things that folks need to really do, and Sweta and Jocelyn mentioned this, I think it's important for people to augment themselves. So it's taking what you're doing today and how you operate today and saying, how can AI really help me? So what folks should do is really frame how what the work that they're doing is, what is the problem I'm trying to solve, what are the three, give me like three approaches, ask AI to give it approaches on how to solve it, and what are the risks, because in today's society, or in today's workforce I should say, we've got so much that we're trying to consume all at once, and really helping AI can really help someone incorporate all of that information in I'm going to say seconds and minutes, versus people trying to do it, reading all of the documentation. So how do you use that to really help you move faster, move forward, be more, effective, and also help like improving your thinking and your decision making. So you're not using it to solve the problems, you're using it to help you do better. And
So
I think,
brainstorming, a thinking
yes,
partner, right?
yeah,
That's
you know,
beautiful.
yeah, just we don't want to use AI to say, give me the answer to this, but how can you help yourself think differently? Because again, you can't look at everything and understand everything, but it can pull all of this together for you and then help you think differently, and maybe see things that you didn't see normally when you pulled the data together, or the insights or the documents together.
Yeah, and when I look at it from that perspective, I think one of the things and one of the skills that pops up for me as I see practitioners in teams, in larger organizations working with AI, is that ability to be patient. AI is an assistant. If you were to bring in an intern or an assistant or a team member to work with you, you would give them some ramp up time. You would provide them some coaching. Very often, what I see is that people expect AI to yield results in the first prompt. AI is not magic. AI is going to do what you are going to ask agent AI to do, and that's why you have to get smarter with what you're asking AI to do and how you want to leverage AI. So
Right. And
having that understanding is also critical. Go ahead, Vinita.
no, sorry. And so one of the other things is also not taking the responses at face value and saying this is AI said that this is the response. You have to be strategic enough to be able to think and say, okay, is the response that I got or is the output that I got accurate? Can I, it. I always say AI is a mini me. So I've got someone to help me, but I'm the main core person. So I have to make those decisions. I have to read through, make sure that the responses I'm getting and the answers I'm getting are accurate.
And without getting into the deeps of the technology, all AI systems as they exist today are designed to please human beings, are designed to please the person who is on the other side, prompt engineering. And a very good way to address that is to let AI know that you don't want to be pleased. Give it to me as it is. That's the beauty of prompt engineering, that you can actually specify how you want AI to behave, and you can really ask it to challenge you, and that's where it really becomes that strategic partner with whom you can brainstorm. So I want to switch gears a little bit and come to you, Kanak. In your industry, in edtech specifically, where are you seeing AI being used?
Sure, Rashim. Um, so from the EdTech, product management and entrepreneurship background, uh, what I can share from my experience, everything, basically everything how I used to do 2 years back had been changed. Still the same kind of process and workflows, but how we used to do it is everything that is changed. So to your point, Resham, you said partner. Yeah, he's a partner. Or we need a mini me. I like that phrase, mini me. So I would say it's for us. It's like a co-pilot right now in edtech. Generating the content, in product management life cycle, starting from the conception all the way to growth. There are tools available. For user research, product discovery, we have Grain, Dovewell. Then for engineering, we have Cursor and other tools which can instantly, generate and the code. But where I think product management and how this evolved, probably it has changed especially the PM function to mini startup founders in a company. It's like more looking into the workflow and seeing where I could use AI relevantly and not to remove human intervention too early in the process, which could bite back. And I think all of us kind of agree with that, as we are echoing the same thing. One practical tip which I want to share with everyone is red teaming. So, because I led privacy and security earlier, what I have seen, when you dog food your product or feature, try to break it by all means from AI perspective, specifically from the lens of safety, bias, compliance, security. We have seen in news, I think a month earlier, where accidentally some sensitive government documents got leaked in an attempt of using AI. So these are the areas where I think product managers and of course entrepreneurs have to involve. So AI is as good as the data is. Let's put it this way.
Absolutely, absolutely. When we start looking at NASA and when we start looking at aeronautics and other places, Swati, how do you think you are using AI and how have your workflows changed?
Yeah, so I would actually like to build up on what Kanak said, and I work in the area, as you mentioned, in the area of aerospace vehicle design as well as aerospace operations, and this is a very, very highly regulated industry, and safety comes first. That's the top priority. So any change, any modification in the current process has to be vetted, has to be validated. There is a very, very strict guideline to for anything to get approved and out there in the production and in the field, because it's actually going to be used in safety critical missions, and human lives are at stake. So AI is definitely being looked at in my domain and space, and we have been this so one thing about aerospace operations is it is a very, very data rich domain, and very, very domain specific knowledge is also required to make the best use of AI tools that we have available today. So I would say the most important, so we have been looking at the processes, our current processes, how AI can make them better, automate some of them, because there are gaps. There are areas where we can improve for sure with AI. Domain specific in context training is very important. So we've been looking at ways how we can use the data that we have available and make the best use of the current, for example, the large language models that we have with in context training, like with retrieval augmented generation, RAG methods, and so on. And in addition to that, there is in this industry there is going to be a human oversight. So we definitely need that. So it's still have a kind of, I would say, a long way to go, where we would be able to rely on the AI system to make the decisions, to make the recommendations on for us without human oversight. So that's the beauty of it. I guess we are looking at using AI to increase productivity, to increase efficiency, to make better designs, to make current processes faster. At the same time, how we can all work together, keeping in mind the limitations of the AI tools, like hallucinations. There's going to be there may be some bias. There is data dependency. So how those systems are going to work in the field in production. So things like AI observability, the agent observability, those become very important to capture in and I use most of the domains, but specifically in domains such as aeronautics or aviation, where the real-time decision making is so important, and we are working again on the safety critical side.
Yeah, and that's why red teaming that Kanak mentioned becomes very important, right? As the first piece. And we have some great courses on LinkedIn Learning from the EVA team instructors on red teaming, and I just stick the link in there for everybody to look at. All those who have LinkedIn Premium can access these courses for free. The other piece that becomes important and I think should be talked about is the fact that there is always going to be the need for human in the loop. We cannot get away with human in the loop. AI doesn't replace AI in the loop, human in the loop for high stake, important, critical tasks. Automation, mundane stuff, absolutely. When it comes to decision making, when it comes to making strategic decisions, leveraging data to get to the point where you need to in terms of strategy, a human is always going to be involved. I have this phrase from Vinod Khosla that I really love, that AI actually allows you to be more human. So step away from being more automated and being more machine like and move towards really being human. And really, in my experience of working with AI deep for over 2 years now, I have realized that it truly allows me to be more human. That's very true. With that, Shweta, I want to quickly come to you in terms of what are the processes that you are seeing being automated in HR functions?
I think a lot of it, I would say HR was probably the early adopters in the AI space, because the way we hire people, the last 2 or 3 years, we have seen significant amount of candidates applying for roles due to change in the socioeconomic framework and what's happening around the world. And I think from right from the time when you start sourcing a candidate, right? Today you have tools available which are using AI to be able to farm the existing talent pool that you have already in the system, because people have applied for similar roles in past. And even before the recruiter starts sourcing, actually, or the job posting happens, these tools can actually scan the entire system and say, here are 5 people, 10 people who were your silver medalists, from the previous conversations or jobs that you had posted, who you could potentially look for. So right from screening, sourcing, to actually educating hiring managers on how their interview process should look like, providing them tips on interviewing skills, moving on to performance management, right? How do you write effective performance conversations for your team members? How do you go about giving them concrete feedback? So if you look at the entire employee life cycle, right from attracting the talent to how do you develop and upskill them, to how do you manage their performance, AI is making strides for us. And I think this is where the true differentiator is. All this time that is getting freed up for the recruiters or HR leaders is where they can actually, as you said, Rashim, go deeper and build those stronger connections with the stakeholders to have meaningful dialogues, because they are no longer, just sitting down and scanning tons and tons of data, mining through 500 candidates to reach out to 5 candidates that they potentially need to reach out to. I think that has been a true game changer for HR. And I think it will continue to evolve as we go, because I'm just amazed by seeing all these new tools that are coming up, leveraging AI to enhance the productivity, not only for the HR team, but also for employees across the organization. And every year you see something which you had never thought of could be brought in. And that's the excitement and the fun part of being in today's time, where you can go in and say, oh, well, I didn't think this is possible. I didn't think this could be done in this manner, but now I can see it can be done. And how do I then, evolve myself to do something bigger and better? I think is where most of the HR leaders are focusing time and energy on. I know this task is repetitive. I know this process can be automated in finance, in supply chain, in marketing, you name it. We used to take a lot of time and energy in terms of drafting marketing communications, campaigns. Today, Canvas, you can go in within minutes, you can generate something which is so cool that you haven't thought about it all, in past. And now all your marketing people have that time in hand. So what can they do differently is the question. And this is where I think the challenge for the HR leaders is, in terms of how do we continue to work with the business leaders to elevate the teams and give them more meaningful work from what they were doing in past.
Awesome. So we talked about the workloads in edtech. We talked about workloads in aeronautical engineering. We talked about workloads in HR. Vinita, from your perspective as a change leader, what are some of the workloads where you are seeing AI making the biggest impact?
Absolutely. I think one of the areas that I'm seeing it is the data, is where we're pulling so much data together to give insights to our leaders. That to me is a perfect example of efficiency at its core, because people are not doing, Sweta just mentioned, the mundane work, the repetitive work. Even insights and the analytics, the high level analytics can be pulled together, where where you have your data scientists and your engineers and folks like that, being able to automate some of this. Look at the workflows within each of the roles and responsibilities, and being able to automate most of that so that people can actually spend more of their time looking at what that data and that output means versus pulling it all together, versus, and it takes hours. It takes hours, sometimes days, to pull the work together, to pull data together, or even analytics and analysis, PowerPoint presentations or documents, or whatever your role might entail. Using AI to help you do that, it to me is such a wonderful actually experience. I personally am not afraid of AI. I embrace it as any new tool comes along. Today it's AI. Yesterday it was and for me, in my world, it's an analytical tool, an event analytical tool, or something like that to use. We have to be open-minded to embrace it, to say, how do we use it to the best of our ability to make our lives easier and better?
Absolutely. I will tell you that with the teams that I work with, and some of my teams have implemented AI. And the data analytics piece is a huge use case, because there are times when we have been able to get 90% of our time back because we have started using AI. And 2 years ago, the scenario was different. You had to still think about integrations and everything else and bringing data together. And there was somebody had to know Python, and somebody had to know different other languages to bring it together. Today, with Cursor, with Claude Code, you can just type in the prompt and it brings it all together. It's amazing the amount of evolution that has happened in 2 years. I think earlier it would be decades before you could get to something like that. And now every minute there is a new company out there trying something innovative and bringing out tools to make our lives easy. Jocelyn, from your perspective in the product management, project management space, what are some of the workloads that you are optimizing with AI?
So in my space especially, because I am industry agnostic. So for instance, when I first went into the healthcare space, I spent the first 3 days listening to all the handoff meetings, and I was supposed to take the handoff meeting. And on Wednesday night, I cried. I said, this is ridiculous. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I should be here. But then I said, hold on. So I already have been working and training my little framework in AI, right? And saying, this is my brand as a leader. These are the frameworks I use. These are the types of questions I ask. And these are the types of problems I want to solve in this space. So I was like, okay, this is the context. How do I go in and what questions do I ask? What do I need to go and read and learn to be most effective tomorrow morning? By Friday, the person handing it over said, Jocelyn, I'm very confident that you will not only lead this, you will do phenomenally well. And her prediction did come true. And then I terrified myself in July last year by taking something I would have done in 50 hours and reducing it to a 4-hour product. And that's how much time it took me. And I said, now, how am I going to pay my bills? And the answer was, well, you took all of this stuff, discovery pieces that I was working on, all the interviews I had conducted, and you crystallized it into requirements. I was like, now I will vet it. I'll be thorough and I will see how to add value. So when you amplify the value, we went from a diktat that said, we're migrating from enterprise platform A to enterprise platform B to, as we are migrating from there, how many of our broken processes can we fix and really gain the value on embracing enterprise platform B? So it makes me very happy.
Yeah. I'm going to switch gears a little bit over here. I know all of us on this panel today have been in some form or others hiring managers, right? As we think about our teams, what is the next level of talent that we want to bring to our teams? What AI capabilities are we looking for in the next hires that we make? I want to understand from you what matters the most for you in your current roles as you are building out teams. which are the key skills that you are going to be looking at in the candidates. And the goal over here is that we provide that lens into a hiring manager's mind for our audience so that we can really help them prepare for those skills. I know many of the people who are listening to us, many of the women leaders who are listening to us today, have interviews scheduled in near future, are already talking to some hiring managers, and we want to ensure that we provide them that insight. Vinita, why don't we start from you? Like, what do you look for in the candidates? Not probably 10 years ago what you looked for, but what do you look for in them today, because it has changed?
Absolutely. So I think, that's a great question, Rashim, because I feel adaptability and tenacity are the two things that I look for. How can folks really pivot when needed? I always feel, in my entire career, I always feel that people can learn and grow in their careers, but how can they really adapt? I think those are two different things. And I think that's one of the key things with our world changing so rapidly and so quickly. We have to be tenacious. We have to adapt and make use of what is available to us. And I don't like to focus on tools whether somebody knows a specific tool or not. It's how are they using what they have out there to make their lives better? How are they using it to make their job workflows easier, be more efficient, be more strategic? And then how do they elevate themselves and help businesses and outcomes grow? The customer base, you're looking at customer base. What can you do, and how can you help your customers? All of us are in some way or another trying to grow the customer base, trying to make sure that our customers are happy. So so when I look at folks and hiring folks, I look at, again, it comes down to, for me, adaptability and being tenacious.
That's so important. One of my favorite questions to ask is, what have you learned recently in last, say, 1 week? I don't want to go to 1 month or 3 months. I want to know, what are people exploring? A real aha moment for me in the interviews that I do as a hiring manager, or even when I'm supporting anybody else's hire, is learning about new tools. What did you experiment with? And then I go back and I test those tools myself. So it's very, very exciting. I always look at interviews as a learning opportunity from the person who is interviewing too, because there's so many new things that I learn during the process. Shweta, you not only are a hiring manager, but you support hires across different layers in an organization, right from individual contributor to the middle management to the execs. What do you look for when you have those conversations? What are the skills that you are looking for? And for you, I also want you to go a little more specific for the audience. Like, if they're thinking about AI, and AI is a huge world, what are some of the tools that come to mind? What are some of the segments that come to mind? Give us that deep dive, that insight into a hiring manager's mind.
It's really vast, because you could have tech roles and you could have non-tech roles, and both of them may be leveraging AI in their own respective forms. I think one of the key things that I personally feel, is the learning agility. And that's something that we always want to look at when we are hiring a candidate, because what you're hiring for is not just for today, but for future as well. And that's where I think the lens we would like our leaders to also have when they are hiring for their teams, because the context, as Vinita said, is changing very, very fast. It's not about what tools do you know today, but can you learn new tools? Do you have growth mindset? One of the most important things that I like to look at when I'm interviewing candidates is their ability to look at processes holistically, and what process enhancements have they driven, irrespective of which teams they are joining. Because when you come from outside, our thought process is you will bring thought, outside in perspective, which means you should be able to critique the existing way in which we operate and come up with those instances, highlights in terms of what needs to be looked differently. The other thing that we definitely want to look at is long term thinking. Are you able to connect the dots? Right? It's not just about your process, your domain. Your process could be an input or an output to another process. So can you look at that vision holistically to say, what I will do or what changes I make because of AI in my domain, how will it impact my cross-functional partners? And how will this contribute to the bottom line of the organization? When we look at tech talent, and I've worked for Amazon, I've worked for Meta, we would start with coding assessment. How well can the person code? Go deeper, show us what you can do, or look at system design interviews. Go in and tell us how you would be able to bring in your blue ocean thinking, launch a new product and other stuff. Now the ball game is changing. It's all about, well, how can you use AI to be able to code effectively? Or I have a code in place. Can you debug and tell me what needs to be done differently, or what could be not working in this code? So you will see that a lot of companies today have started to experiment with tools, with technologies where the coders are not just being assessed on their coding skills, but being able to use AI to become more efficient. And AI assisted coding is a skill set that we have started to test amongst our candidates, which couldn't be thought about maybe even 6 months ago. Last 6 months have been game changer, where a lot of these coding assessment platforms like CodeSignal, HackerRank, etc. are able to go deeper and say, now we have AI. Can you do AI assisted coding or not? Right? So I think those are some of the things which are being looked differently. How well can you adapt? How well can you learn? Do you bring in the growth mindset? Do you have the long-term vision, end-to-end view? Can you critique the processes? Can you step back and unlearn to learn something new? That's something I think which is changing in today's interview process for us.
Awesome. Swati, what is happening in the aeronautics space? How are you thinking about talent as you are bringing in talent? And what are the key skills that you look for?
Yeah, so the process, hiring process or the skill set that we look for is definitely changing as well. So I work with data scientists, data analysts, software engineers, developers, systems engineers, as well as research engineers in our domain. And previously, I will say like few years back, we used to look at very, very specific skill set in terms of, do you know how to code in this language, or for software developers, front end, back end, certain processes for systems engineers, and very, very specific things. Now it has become more holistic. How if they are able to understand the overall process, the overall workflow, and how they can use the AI tools that are out there to do their work. So I completely agree with what others said here about AI assisted coding. That's a real thing that we look for when we interview anyone in that domain right now. How you can use the AI tools to not only do your day-to-day work, but how overall improving the workflow, as I said, and how much productivity gain you're going to get out of it. So when we look at these roles, even for domain specific roles, how you can use AI tools and continue to learn. I think that's another important piece. The new technologies or new tools that are coming up now how the person is able to adapt, learn, and quickly incorporate those new things in their workflow. They are not using the same process that they were using last year or 2 years before, but have that mindset of continuing to improve, have that agile mindset, and include the new that's out there, and continue to improve. I think that's becoming the key now. Like, you have to keep adapting, keep changing, and keep learning.
Yeah.
And
So we,
let me also add, one more thing out here, Rashim. I think a lot of leaders, when they are interviewing candidates, are today not just looking for how well can you prompt, how well can you use ChatGPT, Gemini, or some of these, tools in the system that are available to you, but looking for measurable outcome, right? So if you are putting on your resume, I used all these AI tools, I think the next obvious question is, what has changed because of that? What was the ROI for all the effort that you have put in? And I think this is where the
Yeah.
interviewing is changing a little bit more, to be able to ask the candidates, show us quantifiable results. If you adopted, what changed? What improved? What broke because of that? And what were your learnings in the entire process? Because I think AI is also evolving with every single, iteration which is happening, as it's learning fast, and it's learning faster than we imagined. But at the same point in time, do people have the humility to be able to, in Amazon language, as they say, be vocally self-critical, right? And that's one of their leadership principles, where they say, can you step back and critique your own self? What could I have done differently? So what are you learning when you are implementing AI, and how are you adapting and changing and evolving because of that is equally important. Because uh, everything and anything that we are putting into AI may or may not necessarily be the way exactly the things should work. And yet that's where your human judgment has to come into play. And are you able to identify those opportunities where you feel, well, I moved too fast and then I realized it didn't work out the way I thought. What did I learn in that process, and what did I change? I think that is also a very important skill that we are looking at, the ability to step back, look at things critically, and critique your own self to say, what can I do differently now that I have the wisdom and experience from that episode, and especially at leadership levels.
yeah, and then that was very good, Shweta, because I was going to come to Kanak and ask some of these questions. Kanak, as a product leader, when you look at it, and you look at the way AI is being used, what are some of the KPIs that are changing? How do you think about, how do I demonstrate the impact? Embracing AI is one thing. Bringing it into your everyday use cases and workloads and getting measurable impact is a completely different thing. So I want you to dive a little bit deeper into those aspects. And then, Jocelyn, I want to come back to you and take that forward in terms of putting in the lens of transformation, and how do some of the metrics that Kanak is going to share with us kind of take it forward from a transformation perspective. So go ahead, Kanak.
Thanks, Risham. I think that's a very beautiful question. So in this industry from long, earlier we kind of see from the lens of output, how much output, how big of a team you have, and how much output you have given. But now everything has changed. It's not about output, but it's more about continuously adding value of what you have delivered. So, and recently I was talking with many students, because my son is a high schooler, and I could see that kids also have a huge pressure on, learning AI tools, this and that, and they are not even sure that what they are learning today is going to go away by the time, they have to apply it. So when I was talking, I this came to my mind, observing them, that probably we have to turn this around in terms of KPI or how we see the things. It's more first, trying to solve the problem that is in your hand, your business problem, your, so problem framing is more critical now than earlier. You know, because even if you apply AI to a wrong problem, it's going to derail everything. Second is, instead of using this AI for output or delivery, it is like how you can create intelligent system where human and AI could interact, which adds continuous value. So this system thinking is another, criteria that I'm seeing is evolving. And third is how to leverage AI intelligently and not be obsessed of it. I have practical example where I have seen AI being applied where it was not relevant, and it has unnecessarily complicated the whole project. So it kind of becomes an overburden now. So it's not about AI agent and what is coming more, but it's more about, intelligently stepping back and then overall seeing from the problem system perspective as well as from the leverage.
Awesome. That is very, very valid. I've seen so many people come out to me and say, hey, I want to develop an agentic system for this. And I'm like, no, you don't need an agentic system for this. You can just use prompt engineering to build this. You don't need to build out a whole orchestration layer and everything else for this. So that's very interesting, Kanak. It's not about jumping on the you know terminology or technology bandwagon because of the fear of missing out, but it's about understanding what your problem is and what's the best way to solve it, whether with technology or with process or with people. So, Jocelyn, want to come back to you and talk to you about some of the transformation and key metrics that you are seeing evolving because of the use of AI.
I'm seeing evolution in speed, right? Obviously, it makes you faster. It is, like we said, a speed and volume game. We're also seeing, people using it in how do we make quicker decision making, and that I think is dangerous territory. And I'll tell you why. Because you can, for instance, say, okay, we're in the middle of a platform transformation, so this hits a little closer to home, right? You can be like, I have a beautiful product, and I am going to help you implement and deploy it. But AI has generated my best practice project plan, which says this is the best way to make value for my company. What happens is you've not now heard the customer and what their needs were, because AI did not put that in. So that missing clarity, the ability to ask questions downstream, and even when people say, I want you to think strategically, not tactically. Here's the thing, right? In transformations, strategy cannot be limited to I'm sitting in my cubicle. I think that went away a long time ago. So if you say, I'm going to, for instance, bump up the volume of work we are going to do at these locations, you have to say, let me take a look down there and see if they can even handle that volume, or if I throw something, it's going to stick at the wall or fall right back off. And so that ability to move in and out, I think AI empowers it, but then knowing to use that makes a difference to whether you have actually, at the end of the day, from a transformation that you have brought about, created the outcomes you wanted, or you have spun up fancier metrics that are not matching your overall business goal.
Yeah, makes sense. We have about 10 minutes left, and I know our audience wants to also know about what are the current tools that you're using in your everyday life. What is it? Give them some insight into the new tools. I'll start with myself. I am experimenting. ChatGPT is my friend. I've been training ChatGPT to be my assistant for over 2 years. I've got to a stage where ChatGPT understands me, how I am as a person, and puts out things or responses the way I like them to be. So that's an assistant that I've trained. So I'm not even going to go there. It's basically open on my laptop every single day, every single minute, just like Outlook is. But other things that I am experimenting with, I'm experimenting with no code and low code coding. So Cursor, Claude Code becomes important for me. Lizer, a beautiful system. Their architect new product. I'm really enjoying working with that. Generative UI is another aspect that I'm diving deep into. Apart from um, tools that are available like Writer, Synthesia, and others. So those are some of the tools that I'm working with, I'm leveraging depending on my use case. And many times I see that you can use the same tool to address some of the common workloads, but then you can use various tools to do the same thing as well, and then it becomes like which one does more effectively and which one basically strikes a chord with you. As I mentioned, it's like your assistant, your intern, right? So there are going to be many of them available, but which one do you favor, or which one would you choose for one particular task? It might be different from the person whom you choose for another task. So that's where your human judgment comes in. But those are the key tools that I am using. Vinita, what are some of the tools that you are using?
It's funny you asked that, because when you said ChatGPT is open and it's your friend and it knows you, I feel I'm in the same situation. I have ChatGPT. I have multiple screens, and I'm actually looking at one screen right now, but I do have multiple screens, and my family thinks I'm a little crazy because I have ChatGPT open on one screen and I use it for everything. When I'm sending messages, or when I'm trying to get other perspectives on what I've done, ChatGPT is definitely one that I use the most. I've used Gemini, I've used other tools, but I tend to lean towards ChatGPT, to be honest with you, because it's learned my tone, my voice, how my thinking is, and knows how I'm going to say operate. And that's why early on I said it's a little bit of a mini me, because I feel like, I can put in what I want, and how I want it, and it gives it back to me. At this point, because I've been using it for so long, it knows me well enough.
You've invested time in training it.
Exactly.
Right? Just like you would do to your real assistant. That's beautiful. Yeah. That's beautiful. Swati, what are the tools that you are experimenting with of late?
Yeah, so ChatGPT is on the top of my list for using on a day-to-day basis. And it's just like I think I've trained it a lot so far, so I continue to use that. I use Gemini. I recently started to use Gemini and starting like that as well, specifically for image generation. If I have to create a quick flyer or things like that, yeah. So I've explored it for that as well, and we have some internal AI tools which are kind of built on the open source foundation models, but they are trained for some domain specific tasks. So I've been using those as well. One of the specific technical task that my team was working on was speech to text conversion, and whisper flow was the one that I used for that. So these are the main tools. And yeah, one more tool I'd like to mention is that I've started using very extensively in my day-to-day work for summarizing meeting notes and documents and so on, the Microsoft Copilot. And they have integrated that really well in the entire Microsoft suite. So it's coming in very handy at times.
Yeah, we extensively use Notebook LM at eVOW to generate podcasts on the articles that Shweta and I publish. So very exciting. Kanak,
Sure.
what are you experimenting with of late?
I recently tried Lovable for design, and
Yes.
I really liked it how it's generating and bringing the whole wireframes. So what used to take like weeks and months with the design team could be done in a day now.
You no longer need
Because
Figma.
yeah, Figma also now have these AI capabilities.
I know,
So
but lovable is so much more lovable, right? With
it
the generating
is.
UI capabilities. Yes, love it. What else?
And for image, Swati, I also tried this Leonardo.ai. It kind of generates very real pictures. So I like that one. And GitHub Copilot, I tried to
Yeah.
host my system from
Use that as well.
one cloud to another cloud system. So it is very friendly. Like GitHub, I used earlier, but now it's really friendly to use.
For those who have been through the pain of using GitHub before and committing the wrong files and erasing all the data, yes, it's very exciting what's happening in that world. I have not tried Leonardo.ai, so I have to try it.
It's good.
Shweta, what are
Yes.
you experimenting with?
So the last one that I actually used was Synthesia because we were generating some video content. That was something which was useful. But like many others, I think we started with Chat GPT, and because it's learned so much about the way we like to write, the way we like to think about things, that's definitely the go-to tool. I tried Grok a couple of times. I liked that too. I've tried Perplexity. So I play around a little bit with Perplexity, Grok. Claude is something that I'm excited about. I'm hearing good things about it. Haven't experimented too much. So that's on my bucket list going forward. I'm sure Jocelyn would have experimented with some too. Which ones have you experimented with?
So I started whiteboarding using ChatGPT because that was out there first when I started a couple of years ago. But and like most of us, right? Because it was available and accessible, and the professional package was within the price point reach. It has been trained in different Jocelyn personas and different Jocelyn frameworks, so it's there. But what I do is for some cases, right, Claude is a better person to work with. And so then AI system to work with. And so what I do with Claude is if I like my change management, especially to be warm, to be humane. But I also don't want to run afoul of saying something I should not because it's a regulatory environment, right? And so I use Claude to say, hey, I want to say this. Can you just check? Like, I know I have done my checking, but I want you to check and I want you to say this safely. And then I'll take that into consideration and frame what I'm going to say. Um, Also, Copilot, we run out of credit so fast on that. So I make all my mistakes on ChatGPT using anonymized data. And then I'm like, okay, this is going to work the way I want it to. This is not going to give me AI slop. So then I go and I put what I need to now because I've made all my mistakes and arrived at it into Copilot. And then Copilot, you know, does what I need it to.
I love the idea of, using two of them because I sometimes do that as well. Another one that we've been experimenting with is Glean. And that's something also that we've experimented with. So I go a little back and forth and sometimes use the same prompts in two different, AI tools to see which one gives me better results. But as I said, I think what I'm trying to also train myself on is not just the prompts, but if I put a process document in there, can it highlight to me what are the gaps in the processes, what I should be looking at differently? Yesterday, I was just playing around putting a job description in, one of the AI tools to say, critique this job description, tell me what's, good, what's not working in here, what should I elevate? And some of the suggestions it gave were really good. And, so much time you can save as an HR professional, coaching your team to not spend time writing the job descriptions, but using AI to critique it and then go back with recommendations to business and become so much strategic in those conversations with the leaders.
And
It
one of
almost
my
seems like, yeah.
sorry,
Go ahead,
I was
Jocelyn.
going to say one of my favorite use cases with change management on something that was going really hot and heavy was pulling all the transcripts, throwing them into Copilot and saying, give me a spreadsheet that says the what are we doing, whom does it impact at first, second, and third levels, and pull the transcript excerpt so I know this was real and where it is, so that if someone asks me. And it had more change management pieces than all of us collectively had spoken about and put together, like hidden stuff uncovered. I was very happy with that.
It almost seems like we'll have to do a couple of follow-up sessions to actually see this all in action. I'm happy to do one too on 𝐭𝐿𝐴𝐼𝐹. But thank you so much for joining in today. I wish everybody who is listening to this, hearing this, will catch up on this a few days from now, maybe tomorrow, maybe on Monday. A very happy International Women's Day. Sharing is caring, and we always move forward when we give, because when we give, we gain. Thank you all for joining in. Stay tuned for the next list of events that are coming up very quickly on the 𝐸𝑎𝑙 platform to enable you on how to uplevel yourself when it comes to AI. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.